Hello and welcome back to a new Pace podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Andrew, and today we are welcoming all the way from Idaho in the USA, Sharli. I'm so excited to have Sharli with me today and looking forward to getting to know someone who I've just met recently and really feel drawn to and really feel like that what she talks about and what she does feels like it really aligns with the ethos of pause, act, create, and empower within the new Pace model. So, hello, Sharli. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really eager to learn more about what you do and how it like meshes with the work that I do.
Yeah, and there's always like these natural overlaps, isn't there, when like in sort of psychology and in sort of mindset and in the bodily work and in sort of things about pausing and lots of things about that. So could you explain to me in this moment like where you are with things, how you got started, like what are those important things for you?
So I was first introduced to the philosophies of Eugine Gendlin after I had my first child. So this has been like over 30 years ago. And I was in a series of workshops. There was a psychologist who came and taught one of the workshops, and he introduced Eugene Gendlin's process, focusing. He called it wondering. He put his own little twist on it. And I volunteered for him to do the demonstration. And I started sensing in my body, which is what we do in focusing, and just started moving. And he could see what was happening. So he had everyone move to the edges of the room, and he turned down the lights, and I danced. And I had been wanting to be a dancer since I was a child and really didn't have an opportunity to train, and for various reasons had like stuffed this down. And I danced. I took up the whole room. And he told me after, like, we all would have paid to watch that performance. It was amazing. And it just came out of me because I had tapped into something by pausing. I noticed you have that in your process. So that was my first introduction to focusing. And it's not always that dramatic. It's not always this like outburst of movement. Some people are very still, and sometimes I'm very still. But in that moment, what my body needed was to express and move in a very big and dramatic way.
Oh, that sounds like lovely. I'd imagine that, that experience from both sides, those people witnessing you very intuitively dancing and moving in flow, what it seems, and you being in that moment. And you said about it tapping into something. Do you have a sense of what that is that you are tapping into for that to happen?
Yeah, Gendlin calls it the felt sense, and he very explicitly says that I didn't invent this. It's not something I made up. It's a human capacity that we all have. His work was simply to articulate it and talk about it and teach people how to connect with what he named the felt sense. And it can be hard to describe. Sometimes he describes it as an aura. It can include thoughts, memories, body sensations, or these can be ways into it, but it's also more than that. It's that whole body sense of something that is not yet encapsulated in words or in an image. It's that pre-verbal urge for something.
Yeah, it feels like sort of like something that very much kind of fits in with like what I do as an art therapist, of like having that kind of that sense and maybe an understanding that is maybe more innate and that might not be like, where did this come from? We just naturally knew. There's an innate knowing, and then listening to those senses there's maybe something important about listening to those senses. Because I'm curious about whether there's been times when you've been really aware of listening to that felt sense, and whether there's times when you've maybe ignored it, or you've kind of gone against that felt sense and you've noticed afterwards. So what that might be. Feels like there's lots of different things going on with that question, but yeah.
It's kind of a big question, especially I don't know if this is okay to go into on here, but I was raised in a very authoritarian, patriarchal religion. And so there was kind of this inner war where I couldn't live by the way I was being told to live, and also listen to what my body was telling me. There was this conflict. So for a lot of my life, it was a real struggle to listen to my body, to listen to my own inner voice. And I didn't leave that religion until I was almost 40.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of really hearing that there's sort of a weight maybe of that conflict of wanting to do things, and maybe what that feels like and what that means, and what's it like now. What's it like now? Maybe does it feel like you're able to do that now? Does it feel like something that
As soon as I was able to leave the religion, like take those blinders off and to recognize I don't have to believe this. I can let it go. And as soon as I did that, it was like going from black and white to technicolor. And I felt like I was coming out of a bomb shelter. Like the whole world was new. It really was a kind of rebirth.
Oh, fascinating. It sounds really like freeing and really empowering, I suppose. We've got this like the empower word in PACE, that kind of capacity and that giving yourself permission to show up as like all of you, like be you fully.
Yes. And it's a learning process. I go back to my first experience with focusing, and what came, the imagery that came with that dance was the day before we had done a guided meditation where we were supposed to imagine ourselves as some kind of an animal being reparented. I can't remember. It was years ago, but I was a caterpillar and I was all alone. And I ended up just wrapping myself into this cocoon. And then everyone else had these amazing experiences, like with these warm, furry animal parents. And here I was just left in this cocoon. And so the next day when he introduced the focusing process, that image of the cocoon was there. And I had started just like wrapped into my body. And as this inner process was developing, that's when I opened up and danced. And in my mind, I was this butterfly and just flying. But immediately after, I shrank back in. And so there would be moments of like really coming into myself and living fully. And then something would happen and I would like shrink back. And then when I left the church, it was really kind of that unfurling and coming out. But still there are moments when I shrink back and want to hide again.
So that sense of kind of watching you as you're moving your arms around and sort of moving your arms to the side and then wrapping your arms around yourself, and that kind of that there's a lot of fluidity with that, something that's maybe like really honoring where you are and then going to a new place and then coming back to the familiar and then reaching out again and coming backwards and forwards, which makes me feel like it's a dance. As I'm moving my arms around and we're going back, I'm actually on a rocking chair just now. So it's like that going backwards and forwards and leaning in and out. And it feels, I suppose what I'm noticing and what's coming up for me is that just really acknowledgement of that bit in the middle, being in that cocoon. Because sometimes people talk about the caterpillar and then all of a sudden we're a butterfly. But what happens in the middle is really important, and that's can be for so many different reasons, so many different things that goes on with that. And
I was talking with some women in a writing group just this weekend about the cocoon and how, you know, we focus on the emergence, we focus on what's visible and performative, and yet what happens in the cocoon is it's intimate, it's private, it's invisible, but it is so important and valuable. It's an experience in its own right. And I've learned over the years to be very gentle with myself. I identify as an HSP, a highly sensitive person, and I didn't used to know how to protect my nervous system and my energy. And I've learned I really do need these periods of contracting and restoring and being in the cocoon, and then I can come out again and go back in, and just knowing that that's okay. And and I kind of fits with your first word, pause. Like, it's so important to take those moments to pause, check in. How am I? What do I need? Is this a time when I can expand? Is this a time when I need to like contract a little bit, take care of myself?
Yeah. And there's something really important, isn't there, about having that self-awareness and understanding what works for you, rather than having sort of a generic strategy or something that everybody does this and they can feel calm, or everybody does this and they can feel more energized. And actually, you being able to, I suppose the word that came up to me when you were talking about the cocoon as well and about that emergence was trust, and being able to trust where you are and maybe have that belief that it's okay to pause, and that actually trusting the process. And when I think about with trusting the process, what comes up for you? Is there anything that comes up about that?
So as you were talking, I think a lot about how our body is a resource that is constantly with us. And I think sometimes when we talk about pausing, we think of, you know, like longer periods of time, but there can be a pause in a conversation, like now as we're talking. If I need to, you know, take a breath, think about, what do I really want to say right now? And giving ourselves that permission to slow down, to really let our energy catch up with us, and bring all of ourselves with us into the next moment, rather than always being like rushing ahead. I got to answer the question. I got to say the right thing. I've got, you know, this kind of rushing and moving forward, you know, like hold back and let our energy move. Breath, and then move into it. Like it becomes a way of living that we're constantly expanding, contracting, like the breath. Our breath is constantly going on, and we can learn to live in that way, so that we're not always like at the edge of like just running faster than we really have the capacity for.
Yeah, that kind of breathing and that like allowing yourself to just be like human being feels really important. And actually, I think this is maybe what drew me to want to talk to you about this and learn more about this, that it's maybe that there's something about allowing yourself to pause and choosing to pause rather than be forced to pause. And like from hearing about some of the things you said about like your background, some of the religious pressures, that I'm wondering whether how, like, you know, that contrast of forced to pause versus choosing to pause, whether that might be particularly important for you, having experienced some of those things.
Yeah, because there's the forced pause and also the forced action. Like, you know, always feeling like I have to do something that doesn't feel aligned, and not being allowed to pause and check in and say, actually, that doesn't really feel right to me. And I give myself that permission now to wait and see how something feels in my body before I move into it, before I say yes, before I take on the responsibility, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And how, like, what if somebody was maybe struggling with something and maybe like needing to maybe listen to their felt sense a little bit more? Like, where do you see this maybe being an obstacle or a challenge for people? Like where do you see it the most, would you say? Or
I think because it's not a usual way of being for us. We tend to be very outward focused. So when I work with people, I usually start by doing a body scan, just getting them connecting and noticing inside their bodies, even if it's at a physical level, like feeling physical sensations. Just noticing that, I can feel my feet from the inside. I can feel my hands from the inside, and just moving through the body in that way. And that helps people to just start relaxing, and then having them just start naming what they're experiencing from the inside. And it can be difficult for some people. They'll be like, well, there's nothing here. So then I'll have them like pause and just start describing the quality of the nothing. Is it like a blank sheet of paper? Is it like a fog? Is it all blackness? Like, once you start naming that quality, then something can start to form. Because that's the other thing with a felt sense. Like, we'll have felt senses that are with us. Like, one example that Gendlin uses is if you leave the house and you just have this sense that you forgot something. You don't know what it is. It's not, you can't name it. It's not in words, but you can feel in your body, I forgot something. And so you kind of feel around until it's the book that I was supposed to return. But by checking, you're like checking back with something in your body that's saying, I forgot. And so I can have people check in and just see what's already there. Or the other way that a felt sense can work is to invite and let something form. Say you were working on a piece of art or a project. We can invite, like, let's just invite a felt sense of this whole thing that I want to create to form. And it's almost like a little seed. Like, once you put that seed in there, that I'm working on this thing, then it can start to grow. And you're like, oh, well, it's like this flower, then you start describing, and the felt sense of it grows as you describe it, and as you check words that say, yeah, that really fits. Like, it's a pink, whatever.
Say more.
Yeah, just that you can start with something that's already there. Like, if there's a problem that you need to spend some time with, it's already kind of fleshed out. Like, you can already go in and it's like, oh yeah, it's already there. I can feel that whole thing about the argument I just had. Or if it's something that you're wanting to bring in, you can also invite a felt sense to form. So it can be pre-existing, or it can be something that you invite to form.
Yeah. And it makes me think of what you said about the caterpillar butterfly, and this sense of like trusting where you are and then allowing yourself to go to the next bit, which when you talked about being in that cocoon and then being maybe expansive and moving, there was maybe something about like having that, maybe that fear. There's maybe a fear sense of, I'm fearing that something doesn't feel right now. There's something within this situation that makes me feel uncomfortable, or makes me feel it's a no. And then, or there's something that I'm in, maybe in an environment or a situation where actually I feel really safe in this environment, and I'm getting the sense that I could intuitively start to dance right now, or I could feel comfortable like expressing how I'm feeling in a different way, or like whatever it is. But it makes me think that that's maybe just really recognizing where somebody is. But what you said about the kind of like that inviting something in, and because I often have with my art therapy clients, depending on what sort of work position we're working in, sometimes they'll say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. And actually, sometimes they might not need to have sort of a prompt or a structure, but they might need to have that permission that it's okay to not know, but to look within and then go.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's maybe not having all the right answers, but just trusting and going with the flow with it.
Yeah. And being okay with the not knowing. Being okay with that space of, well, there's nothing here. Okay, well, what is the quality of the nothingness? What is, can we just go slow with it? Can we just be with that openness, with that spaciousness, and maybe see if something wants to form from that? There's no, really beautiful things can happen when we allow for that spaciousness and let it be okay to not know. In focusing, we try to stay at, or one of the goals is to get to the edge of something where it feels murky and unknown, because that's when we're into something new. If it's easy to name, if it's easy to speak, if it's easy to draw, if it's easy to, to see and visualize, we're drawing from the store of like already known information. We're kind of recycling through our stories and through the paradigms that we're used to living in. But when we come into that space of, I don't know, it feels unclear, it feels, then we're into something new. And it can feel scary, it can feel uncomfortable. But if we give ourselves time to pause and just be with it, take a breath, get curious about it, really beautiful things emerge.
Yeah. And it sounds like maybe some of these maybe more sort of cognitive processes, like stepping out of your comfort zone or going past certain points, fit quite well with this, but maybe in more of a sensory experience rather than in a head space, but maybe more of in a heart space of, I'm leaning into this. I don't know how I describe this, but just because it doesn't have a way of describing doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's still there. It's still possible. And I suppose part of that challenge, correct me if I'm wrong, is to maybe find or maybe what some people might want to do is to find a new way of describing it to make it certain, when actually maybe what we might need to do is allow it not to have any words to describe it.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Yeah.
Sometimes people will just make a body motion. Like there was one time I had been focusing, and I'd done several focusing sessions because I had partners when I was first training, and I still do have partners where I listen for them, they listen for me. And I kept making this shape with, what was it? I kept making this shape with my hands.
Yeah. So it's like kind of like hands cupped together.
Yeah. And it wasn't words yet. But I kept bringing my hands together. And I was in a long distance relationship at the time, but I kept making this shape. And I realized it was later that the words came, because I just stayed with the body feeling that was present when I was doing this. What came was I ended up writing a whole beautiful essay about the mandorla, the Vesica Pisces, the space where two circles overlap. And like all this meaning unfolded simply from my body kept wanting to do this. And it was later that the understanding came in words in a way that I was able to write about it and articulate it.
And a lot of these things seem to be about that bit in the middle, like those two circles like what's happening in that middle part where there's maybe that transition, where that's transitional points. And I know a lot of people struggle with those transitions. So is there anything that you would advise if somebody is maybe not sure where they're heading with something, or how might they make use of the felt sense to then step through into something new?
Yeah, I think most important thing is your first word, pause. Just giving ourselves permission to pause, to take a breath, to get present. Yeah, just feel our feet on the ground and know that, like, this is living, being alive in my body right now with everything going on, all the unfinished business, all the loose ends, all the little turmoils that happen day to day. This right now is living, and let ourselves be fully in it. Like, I'm fully here in my body right now. And just taking a breath can bring me there. But like our minds, our cognitive minds can be in 100 different places. And I heard someone compare it once to showing up to the gym without your legs. It's like, we're moving into our next moment and we're still thinking about something that happened 10 years ago or yesterday, or, you know, part of us is not quite catching up. And when we pause and take a breath, we can bring all of us. And it's not like ignoring. It's like, oh yeah, I can sense there's something here about that thing that happened yesterday, but I'm here right now with that memory. I can acknowledge the memory, but I'm here right now.
Yeah. So really being in the present. So actually, like that sense of actually, and before you take that step, you may be feeling that kind of thing of like, there's lots of moments where we might do that or have that kind of that gut feeling, or that, like, I'd maybe call the felt sense. A lot of people, I imagine, would call it a gut feeling. But then having that and then sort of like leaning into that and then making that choice and then trusting that, yeah, we'll go this way, or yeah, we'll go that way.
And thinking about when you walk across a room, you're not thinking about every step you're taking. You're not thinking like, okay, I have to go this way to go around this table, and I have to go this way so that I don't bump into the sofa. You know, our bodies just do it. Our bodies have so much knowledge that we're constantly acting from every day. And we get in our heads and we think that we have to think through everything. We have to figure it all out. And we can learn to trust our bodies more, to trust that intuitive sense. It's almost an instinct that can move us through our lives in a more easeful way, just by pausing and really using our senses. You know, what am I feeling? The quality of the air on my skin right now. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? Just using our senses can help us come into our body as well, and as well as the breath.
Yeah. And are our senses always right? Or are there times when we might sort of get it wrong and maybe end up going down a route that maybe isn't sort of aligned or something? Or because I'd imagine sometimes people might find it hard to trust their sort of felt sense of, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I get it wrong all the time. One analogy that I really like is of a plant. Gendlin always says life wants to live. And so imagine a plant trapped underneath a sidewalk. It's can sense the light, and it can sense the water that it needs, and it will grow toward what it needs. And it might, run into a place that, where it's blocked, and it'll kind of run along the pavement until it does find a place where it can grow up. And eventually it's going to find a crack and come up through the sidewalk. So I feel like it's like that. Like, my instinct is toward the light and toward life. And I trust that it's going to move me that way. I might hit walls, but if I keep moving toward that light, I'm eventually going to find a crack where, okay, I've broken through and I can come out into the light.
Yeah. Oh, that just feels really inspiring, that actually just keeping moving and actually having that, if you've got that momentum, that you can go and be meandering around in different places. Because sometimes, especially maybe when we're stuck in our head, that we see an obstacle and go, like, we've got this maybe very rigid, like sometimes that fixed mindset perhaps, where there's, I can't get past this, I can't get past there because it's concrete, can't get past. But a plant's just got that kind of capacity to thrive and to be able to like just go and do what you need to do. So it, from sort of a human perspective, it makes me wonder about sort of limiting beliefs and some of those things that kind of feel really solid, but actually we can get past them by being flexible, by going a different route, or being like maybe mindful of those small gaps that you can get through. And actually I've known plants that then grow through and then suddenly the concrete split, sort of thing. You see roots of trees where that happens, where the roots have got so strong that actually the ground has been so strong that it has split concrete open. So yeah, it feels so inspiring.
Yeah, I love that image. And Gendlin often said, we're at least plants. We have that capacity within us to feel what we need. We can sense what we need, and we can sense how to move toward it. It doesn't mean we won't meet obstacles and have to try again, but if we stay true to that sense of I need this, I desire this, and let ourselves move toward it in whatever way feels right in that moment, we'll eventually break through.
Yeah. And what you said, Sharli, about like, when we first started to talk about feeling maybe those restrictions and feeling like, oh, you can't do that. And then actually, I can do that. And it makes me wonder whether there's maybe, when perhaps if someone's perhaps thinking, I can't trust myself, or I can't trust my intuition, my gut feeling, my felt sense, I can't trust myself, whether that's that they maybe have had some things that have stopped them, or that they've maybe been in a relationship or sort of early life experiences that have maybe put shoulds in their mind, that they're like, in my life I can't do that, or I'm not allowed to do that. But then their gut feeling might be that they keep coming back to a certain thing of having that desire to do the thing, and actually it keeps coming back, but then until they actually act on it, it's going to keep coming back. And does this fit with kind of the work that you do? Like my sense is that there might be people that are maybe feeling that they should be doing something, or feeling that they want to do something but feel that they should be doing something else. I should be being sensible, but really I want to be I want to be dancing. I should be doing this job, but really maybe I want to leave and get my own kind of business or something. But
yeah, I think most of us are walking around with these inner conflicts, and the work that I do a lot of work with that inner conflict, where we really just acknowledge every aspect, every facet of a situation. Well, yeah, there's a part of me that wants to go off and dance in Argentina, and there's a part of me that wants to be here with my children. Like, that was a conflict that I had, and I'm still like wrestling with. And we can be with the whole of it. We don't have to. My teacher, Ann Weiser Cornell, really teaches that you don't, like, we hold a kind of presence for everything that's going on within us. We don't side with either, or sometimes there are multiple facets of a situation. We can let each be exactly as it is. We can let each have its say, like really give time with the part of us that, for me, the part of me that wants to be a dancer, and the part of me that wants to be the best mother I can possibly be to my children, and the part of me that says I should just get a regular job, and and it just slowing down. And I sometimes think of it when I come inside, because I always have a lot going on. It's like being a kindergarten teacher. You come in, the children are all rowdy, and there are some that are acting out, some that are sitting quietly in the corner. And I just have to kind of look at the whole room and get a sense of who needs my attention the most right now. And then I spend time with that part of me. And it really is like a child. Once you've given them the attention, they need these facets of our experience just calm down and like merge into the whole. And then we can give attention to another facet of the experience. And when we give attention inside in this way, the outer world responds. Like I'll find myself just taking action, just moving into the next right action.
Yeah, it makes me think about kind of maybe a first aid situation for somebody that's a paramedic, and like recognizing who needs the attention first. And it's not always the one that's screaming the loudest. It's often like somebody that's the quietest that you maybe need to really pay attention to.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear a bit about your dancing. This feels like we started off talking that there was that really intuitive dance. And yeah, I'd just love to hear a bit more about like where are you in terms of dancing now?
So it was, when was it? 2021. We were coming out of the pandemic. I was working 40 hours a week in an office and just was not very happy. And so I thought, well, I need to be exercising. I need to take care of my body. And I'm not a gym rat. Like I just do not enjoy the gym. And that could change, but as of now. So I started going to tango classes just as a way to get out of the house, as a way to move my body more. And I fell in love with it, absolutely fell in love with it. And that desire that I'd had since I was a child to be a dancer, it's like it was returned to me. And so at the end of 2022, I went to Argentina for the first time for my 50th birthday. It was my gift to myself. I stayed for a month and just absolutely loved it. I felt like I had found my world. Like this is where I belong. I was in the Milongas in Buenos Aires. And then I just kept going back. I found a way to keep going back. I spent most of 2024 in Argentina, fell in love with a professional dancer, and now we are planning a life together, teaching and dancing and bringing my work of embodiment and listening inside the body into the way that we teach tango. Because tango is such a beautiful dance. It's so connected and intuitive. And pausing is probably the most important part of tango. It's like this very slow, juicy moment where you're feeling the music and the drama's kind of building and you're feeling your partner, and I'm waiting for my partner to give that initiating movement. And then my teacher always says, you wait for your partner to give you the impulse and then you take him with you. So it's that pausing, waiting, kind of letting things build until it's like, and then you release and you move into the next movement. And it's a beautiful metaphor for living, like pausing in the moment, like what feels alive to me right now? What feels like a good direction to go right now? Waiting till it's like, yes, and then you move with it.
Yeah. So, and then when you have that yes, it's a yes. There's a certainty about it. It's not, oh, well, maybe I'll just like go along this way. When it's a yes, it's a yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And it kind of makes me like, I was having images of dancers in my head then, and just feeling that kind of that anticipation when there's a pause of what's going to happen next. And I think actually sometimes when somebody feels that anticipation, it can be disguised as anxiety, or it can be considered to be excitement. And it's purely when I talk to people about sort of energy, excitement and anxiety is very much in the same sort of energy field, really similar, but is perhaps more about like where you are heading and maybe the meaning that you place on it. But just that kind of that sense of actually pausing just that slightly bit longer than it might feel comfortable to do so. And then we go. And this feels really, it feels really fun and alive, and maybe feels a real contrast to maybe some of the suppressed emotions that a lot of people experience, and a lot of people maybe feel quite stuck, and it might feel quite far from that.
One of the biggest challenges as a new tango dancer, and from talking with my teachers, I know this is very common for people, is trying to anticipate what the leader is going to have you do. So you're like on edge, like what you're trying to guess where you're supposed to go next. And then you tend to move a little too fast, and it's often not right because you didn't like calmly stay grounded and wait for the impulse. And I think so many of us live that way. Like we're trying to anticipate the next thing. We're trying to guess what's needed from us. We're trying to guess what the other people want. And we're not solid in our bodies. We're not solid in ourselves. We're in this kind of like outward energy of trying to guess what's needed from us. And it is so much more fun and so much more relaxed when we slow down, take the pause, wait a little bit, pause maybe even a little longer than is comfortable, like you said. And then when we know it's right, we can move with certainty. And it sounds like it's like slow, slow, slow. But in tango, like there are some very fast dances. Milonga is a very fast type of dance, but it's the same energy of I'm waiting for the impulse, I'm going and I'm taking him with me. It can happen very fast once this becomes a way of being.
Yeah, it definitely is making me kind of want to give dancing a go, but it also is really inspiring me to lean into things a little bit more for me. So a lesson I'm thinking of is sometimes I get quick to maybe panic about something, or maybe I'm not doing enough, things like that, or maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But actually, when I allow myself to pause, and I'm going to really practice this week and going to make a big effort to do this week, an intention of that, when allowing myself to pause and just really sit with it and allow those answers to come, rather than panically ask and be frenetic about, I don't know what I'm doing. It can feel like really misaligned. Whereas it's like, right, we're going to get solid. We're going to get our feet on the ground. We're going to like really feel what's coming up for me. And if it feels like heading in a way that feels new, to actually lean into that. It's kind of, there's a reason. There's something, there's that quote as well, the magic we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding. And often that something can keep coming back. My teacher said about, there's something that I was reminded of many, many times, but when I was learning art therapy, my teacher was saying, if it keeps coming back, it's worth doing. So it's the same sorts of things, that it's that trusting where you're at and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've just got like a couple of things really. If there's things that we wanted to talk about that you feel that we haven't covered, do you feel that there's anything that you'd like to talk about that we haven't spoken about? I know we've got your business name on the screen here. So could you tell people a little bit about what you do? I know you shared a bit about some of the things that you do with clients, but yeah, it gives you a chance to talk about that.
So I've been focusing on individual one-on-one work with clients and doing focusing. I've developed my own process based on focusing and Gendlin's philosophies, but also incorporating a lot more embodiment from my dance experience and from and then also symbolic systems, because our bodies love to speak to us through images and symbols. And when we feed our bodies rich symbolic systems like tarot and astrology, I study the I Ching, it gives our bodies more symbols to work with, more symbols to speak to us through. So I've incorporated all of these things and developed a process that I call somatic oracle synthesis.
Somatic oracle synthesis.
Yeah, so it shortens to SOS. So my clients can ask me for an SOS session.
Oh, I love that. And something that kind of just feels like you could just like immediately understand what that means. And again, there's a symbol of that, isn't there? That, yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And so actually, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, I'm at Fable Mayhem. I have a business page on Facebook at Fable Mayhem. And then my personal pages I also check a lot are Sharli Gerber. I'm getting ready to get married, so my last name's kind of up in the air. My Sharli Gerber is my maiden name. Turner is my old married name. And my email that I use most frequently is charlieturner@gmail.com. So those are all really good ways to connect with me.
Yeah, so anyone that's got any questions, then just reach out to Sharli. I'm sure she'll be really, really open to answer any questions, because it feels like we could go on talking for a lot longer. There's so many different things that we can think about with this, but we do need to wrap up. But I just wanted to ask you one more question, just that kind of fits in with this. Like right at the moment, what really lights you up the most? What's one of those things that just really lights you up the most?
I love just studying and learning about things. I've been reading a lot about the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, and all of the correspondences between the tarot and astrology. And but what really lights me up about it is finding practical applications, especially like I've struggled with time my whole life, and productivity. So finding practical applications for these more esoteric ideas that actually help me move through the day and do the things that are important to me, move through my resistance, move through those obstacles, and find my way forward.
Yeah.
And being able to help other people do that.
Yeah. It really sounds like you sort of very much practice what you preach, for want of a better word, considering like the religious background, and just really like a lot of what the PACE model fits in with is being able to like prioritize self-care and find ways of filling your cup. So actually being able to just like lean into your felt sense and working out sort of what's important now, what's coming up for me, feels like that's a really good way of prioritizing self-care and just recognizing sort of where you are in the moment. So thank you so much, Sharli, and thank you all for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed listening to our conversation about the felt sense and how this fits in with you. Can be very different to how it fits for somebody else. So really allow yourself to lean into like how you're feeling right now. And if there's anything that kind of really resonates, anything that you're drawn to doing or saying or writing down or creating, allow that moment to happen, whether it's immediately or whether it's later on in the week or whether it's just in 10 years time. There's maybe no limit of the timing. But thanks for listening and see you all soon. Bye-bye.